the artist in his studio. Nicolas de Largellière was a young and ambitious painter who had moved from Flanders to Paris to pursue his artistic career. He had rented a spacious studio in the fashionable district of Saint-Germain, where he worked tirelessly to produce portraits, landscapes, and historical scenes. He had a keen eye for detail, a vibrant palette, and a flair for capturing the personality and mood of his subjects. He had also made some influential friends in the art world, who often visited his studio to admire his work and offer their advice. One of them was Gerard Edlink, a renowned engraver who had worked with the likes of Charles Lebrun and Antoine Coypel. Edlink was a master of his craft, who could reproduce any painting with exquisite precision and elegance. He had recently engraved a portrait of Madame de Maintenon, the secret wife of King Louis XIV, based on a painting by Pierre Mignard. He had brought a copy of the print to show to de Largellière, who was eager to see it. Another friend was Charles Perrault, a poet and a member of the Académie Française. Perrault was a witty and cultured man, who had written several famous fairy tales, such as Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, and Sleeping Beauty. He had a keen interest in art and literature, and often engaged in lively debates with his fellow academicians. He had come to de Largellière's studio to see his latest paintings and to share his opinions and insights. The three friends were gathered around a table in the studio, where Edlink had laid out his print of Madame de Maintenon. They were all impressed by the quality and the likeness of the engraving, and praised Edlink for his skill and talent. De Largellière was especially curious about the technique and the process of engraving, and asked Edlink to explain how he did it. Edlink obliged, and showed him the tools and the materials he used, and the steps he followed to create the print. Perrault, meanwhile, was more interested in the subject and the story behind the portrait. He asked Edlink how he had obtained the permission and the access to engrave the painting, which was a closely guarded secret of the court. Edlink told him that he had been commissioned by the king himself, who had given him a private audience and a generous reward. He also told him some anecdotes and gossip about Madame de Maintenon, who had risen from a humble origin to become the most powerful woman in France. De Largellière listened to the conversation with fascination and envy. He wished he could have such opportunities and recognition, and work with such illustrious clients and patrons. He wondered if he would ever achieve such fame and fortune, or if he would remain a struggling and obscure artist. He looked around his studio, and saw his own paintings, which he had poured his heart and soul into. He felt a mix of pride and doubt, of satisfaction and frustration, of hope and fear. He decided to show his friends his latest work, which he had just finished that morning. It was a self-portrait, in which he had depicted himself in his studio, holding his palette and brushes. He had painted himself with confidence and dignity, wearing a fashionable wig and a richly colored coat. He had also included some details that reflected his artistic interests and influences, such as the sculpture pieces and the rolled-up scroll on the floor. He had also added a touch of humor and irony, by painting his friends in the background, as if they were sneaking up on him while he was working. He brought the painting to the table and unveiled it to his friends. They were all surprised and amused by the painting, and complimented de Largellière for his originality and his skill. They also teased him for his vanity and his audacity, and joked that he had painted himself as a king among artists. They asked him what he intended to do with the painting, and if he had a buyer or a patron in mind. De Largellière said that he had painted it for himself, as a way of expressing his identity and his ambition. He said that he hoped that one day, his painting would be admired and appreciated by the world, and that he would be remembered as one of the greatest artists of his time. The three friends laughed and toasted to de Largellière's dream, and to their friendship. They continued to talk and joke, to share and discuss, to admire and critique. They enjoyed each other's company and each other's art, and felt a bond of respect and affection. They were happy and content, in the artist's studio.